I bought a pair of in-ear headphones, Sennheiser, very, very high quality in-ear headphones many years ago. Back in London it was. It must have been maybe 12 years ago. So a while ago. I really don't remember the date, but 10, 15 years ago probably. And they always sounded very good, gold-plated connectors and everything, good headphones, absolutely. Were about 60, 70 pounds back then, so fairly high end. And I'm pretty sure it was in a time where no one ever mentioned the iPhone or mentioned the idea of having to be able to have a phone call on an in-ear headset that also connects with a TRRS connector to your phone so that you have a microphone as well as stereo sound. Pretty sure no one was really discussing that when I bought these things. They were literally as a replacement for some, I believe, a mini disc player thing that I had. Mini disc recorder actually was. But yes, that's why I bought it, and I believe Walkman were kind of still in and all that. So it's back in those days. And I used them the other day. I mean, I still have them, and I remember them being high quality, so I thought I'd try them out for an editing project. And I thought, my God, they sound terrible. They sound absolutely terrible. And I was thinking, well, maybe I just really didn't think much of audio quality back then, so I never really, maybe I didn't notice, so it was one of those things that was weird occasions. I thought maybe it's the headphone jack I'm trying to use on my monitor or whatever I was trying to use this thing with. So I tested a couple of other sources there, and they just sound terrible. That's just what they sound like now. And I didn't know this, but I got in contact with my friend Oliver, who is a bit of a friend of headphones. He has a huge headphone collection. He's really into that. I believe he is what's known as an audiophile, so somebody who loves audio, high quality audio. And I ran this by him and I said, hey, I never remember them to be this bad. Do they, I mean, it sounds bizarre, I never really thought about it, but do headphones wear out over time? Not so much wear out, but do they go bad? Like, I don't know, like a not so shelf-stable piece of whatever product in the supermarket. Like, chocolate turns a little bit white and coffee loses its flavor. Maybe potentially headphones just lose their whatever sound. Is that a thing? And he said, actually, yes, it is a thing. I never thought about this, but if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. There's a little piece of spongy, vibratory thing there. Anything, speakers, headphones, microphones as well. And I'm thinking, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, because if I remember correctly, a microphone is, I mean, it's not exactly lubricated, but there's this really fragile piece of thing that's the one that vibrates. There's the magnet thing, the spool thing that actually gets the electricity and that moves around like this, and that creates the vibrations. But it is really the membrane that turns them into audible signals that we then pick up. And if that thing, whatever, dries out over time and can't vibrate and swing anymore, it can't create and produce the frequencies anymore that made this a really good piece of technology at one point. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, if I'm thinking about leather, leave a piece of leather out and it just dries out, it goes hard and brittle. So I suppose that to a certain extent happens with loudspeakers as well as headphones. And headphones, I suppose, are so miniaturized that whatever thing vibrates and swings is just much more prone to the effects than large loudspeakers, which probably sound okay, like, 40, 50 years after you've bought them. But I've never thought about that there is such a thing as shelf life on headphones particularly. So a very interesting phenomenon. Everything has a shelf life these days. Nothing lasts forever. And those headphones, they never sounded as bad as that, so I can really only throw them away. They're not really, they're still a pleasure to wear. They fit my ears perfectly, but it's just not audio quality that I can recommend anyone listening to. So my next question then, of course, was, well, if headphones are so prone to this effect, I mean, after, I guess, after 10 years, maybe after 5 it starts to deteriorate. At which point is that happening? And also, do microphones react the same way? Do you have to buy a new microphone every 5 years to make sure that your voice can still be recorded properly? I mean, what about these things? Do they dry out at one point? And do environmental factors play a role here, like humidity of the air and temperature, and up until you store it in the light or in a dark room and all that? I mean, it really, there's no end. So I just had this idea that if I was an eccentric millionaire, which one day I might well be, one day we may all be that, I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to buy the same type of microphone, headphone also, and do a test on those two models and then store them separately in a different place for a really long period of time, like 5 years, 10 years, and literally maybe check in once every year, take it out and perform a test and see how the frequencies fare. Provided, of course, that we can do that for a very long time. I mean, audio equipment hasn't really changed over the decades. The technology may have changed, but fundamentally it's still exactly the same as it was 50, 60, 100 years ago. So very interesting notion there. So the only thing that we may have to worry about is XLR or 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks. Are those things still a thing in the future? I mean, we no longer have them on an iPhone, for example. So we will be able to produce adapters and so forth. But my idea was to basically store the same product in a quiet room versus in a loud room, like, I don't know, next to a motorway, or something next to an airport where it's really, really loud and there's lots of vibrations. Because I was thinking maybe it has an impact then on the elasticity of whatever membrane is in these pieces of equipment that may impact them badly. Which then, if you're really eccentric about this, would be really good, a video in about 10 years time of, hey, we've dug this thing out from a quiet room and compared it to the same model that was stored in a loud room, in a noisy room. And that was my colleague from Instacart, very cool. And yes, that'd be a neat little project. Buy something and lock it away. Just have it in the future. It's like new old stock. I was thinking, if I was an eccentric millionaire, I'd do lots of these things. I'd basically buy several iterations of these games consoles that come out, and home computers. Well, we don't have home computers anymore, but things, electronic, funky gadgets that come out, and I'd buy several of them and just store them in their brand new box and just put them on a shelf and just leave them there. That's what I would do. And then in, say, 20, 30 years time, wouldn't it be awesome to unpack something that happened to become a cult gadget? I mean, a brand new Commodore 64 opened now. Wouldn't that be awesome? I remember I did this once with a Polaroid camera, long after Polaroid was bust. I think it was about maybe 2010, 2009, something like that. I got hold of a brand new 1200 SI Polaroid camera, never been opened, factory in Scotland, long been closed and all that, and I had it, the whole shebang. That was really cool. Yeah, that's what I would do if I was an eccentric millionaire with lots of time on my hands.